going to read the next part of my short story, I Stepped Out of a Day. I'm going to pick up pretty much a little bit before where I left off and faded out on the last one. Okay, I Stepped Out of a Day, Part 2, by Alan Masterson. I suddenly felt what it would be like to have false teeth slipping around inside my mouth. I needed to floss more. I flipped the stations in proper attention deficit fashion when I happened upon a magnificent display of human achievement, figure skating. I was immediately sucked into an ultraviolet display of ice and femininity. A solo female skater glided in cadence to a symphony. A muscular goddess with a Minnie Mouse demeanor delivered triple sow cows and double axles with the grace of the best stripper in Vegas. I could feel the earth shudder along with the ripple of her tutu-adorned flanks as she landed on the ice, kicking up enough shavings for an orgasmic Slurpee. I suddenly had an overwhelming need to urinate. I loathe my bathroom when I'm tripping. The mirror sucks me in every time. I thought maybe the sensation to urinate was a trick of the mind, as sometimes is the case, but another sharp pain in my nether regions let me know that it was the real deal. I wish I were barbaric enough to go in a milk jug like Kesey did in Demon Box, but alas, I've been domesticated. My bathroom was incredibly bright and in desperate need of a good cleaning. It looked like a Mexican prison cell. I tried desperately not to look into the mirror on my way to the toilet, but I caught a glimpse, which was enough. Damn my domineering ego. I shook off my stream with a resonating shudder, and felt quite relieved when the magnetic mirror began to tug at my vulnerable psyche. I walked towards it, averting my eyes, but the compulsion to look was too powerful, and I slowly brought my gaze even with my image. I first noticed the huge gaping holes that were supposed to be my pores, pulsating greasy multicolored fractals. My eyes and nose jetted out, separating my face, and rotated counterclockwise with geometrical swirls of nothingness hovering in my reflection. At this point I looked more like a lizard than a man. But then I realized I was smiling. That was odd, because I was slightly horrified at the moment, believing I must have been some kind of sideshow freak in the eyes of my peers. I couldn't see how any woman would be remotely attracted to the monstrosity peering back at me. I graduated from horrified to petrified when I realized I had been laughing and talking to myself for an indeterminable amount of time. I had gone insane. There was no turning back. My ego was raping me. I closed my eyelids to cut the umbilical cord of vision and experience the ultimate phantasmagoric color show. Fractal grins from Hindu demons posed, melted, only to reappear. I enforced my mantra, still the mind, and eventually images of jeweled elephants flowed in and out, carrying gods on their backs. A diamond sun rose on the horizon of an ancient sea, and a foreign fruit taste flooded my mind as I discovered love once more. I opened my eyes to find myself only an inch or two away from the mirror. This disrupted my newly found altered state, so I swiftly escaped the uncomfortable confines of my bathroom. I was standing in my hallway when an indefatigable pounding noise permeated through my apartment, slinging me back into a state of terror. Someone knocked at my door. I shuffled achingly to the door and leaned towards the crack and whispered, "What is it?" with a mouse-like squeak. I realized my stupidity and immediately overcompensated by screaming, "What do you want, man? Could you burn your evening down?" Can I burn my evening down? I believe the devil was playing some sick adolescent prank on me. "Turn your television down, please. My wife has to work in the morning." Shit, my devil box was almost deafening. I rushed over and clumsily shut off the source of the calamity. "Sorry, man," I called out to my disgruntled neighbor. I breathed a little easier when I heard the door slam across the hall. I desperately needed music. Fortunately, I had headphones. My stereo is an out-of-date cassette player from the late 80s, but my buzz had no particulars at that moment. I set it off with some Jane's Addiction, Pigs and Zen, heavy sensual blast of mysticism mixed with musk, while in the background I hallucinated audio screams and whip cracks. Or did I? Perry Farrell cut deep into my limbic region, carrying lyrics to virgin territory. I shut my eyes, and visions of human immolation in the fiery pits of a volcano morphed in and out of my third eye. I followed up with Pink Floyd's Animals and transported on a journey of piercing guitars and themed visions of anthropomorphic hordes of beasts running across green pastures, consuming all in their wake. Then I was ready to experience what Hendrix had to offer. After going to a place that transcends mere mortal observation, only a demigod could justifiably translate, I desperately needed fresh air, even if it was city air. I was peaking, surfing the apex. I crept out of my apartment like a disheartened cat burglar that has stepped in dog shit, descended the stairway like a freshly healed paraplegic at a tent revival. The outside air was crisp and shockingly cold, for all I adorned was a well-worn Black Sabbath t-shirt and jeans. My vision blurred as my serotonin adjusted. I heard, to my right, a muddled conversation, then the slam of a car door as the engine revved off. "What you been doing out here this time of morning?" sounded an invisible bass voice from between two parked cars. "Who, me?" "Nah, the other dumb white dude in a t-shirt standing next to you." "I'm just getting a breath of fresh air." "I just getting a breath of fresh air," he said mockingly. "Peckerwood motherfucker." I just looked at the ground and gave up trying to locate the source of the hateful voice. It took about a half second to realize that the air wasn't as fresh as I had originally thought. So I headed back into my depressing domicile. I could faintly hear a few chuckles and muffled motherfuckers as I ascended dejectedly up my stairway. I climbed the stairs with a deep feeling of violation. It was my neighborhood, too. They could sling all the damn dope they wanted. I didn't care. Just because I was a little white guy, they believed me to be weak. Maybe the next time I would go outside wearing a kilt, swirling a mace above my head, and bludgeon them all like Braveheart or some shit. Whatever happened to the warriors? My ancestors would have crushed those guys and left their corpses for carrion. I felt like the domesticated poodle, longing in my deepest instincts for the raw hunt, the savage kill. I needed transcendental meditation. I felt like I had been out of my abode for a lifetime, my dwelling, the extension of my being. I really needed to clean. When I crossed the threshold, I got down on the carpet and rolled around to get the feel of me, to get intimate with the parasites, the dust mites, who viewed me through their eyes. It was me, my true self, in the muck. Get to know your provider, I screamed in my mind. Get familiar with the God of apartment G1. I'm a loving God, a mighty generous deity. I'd gone completely insane. I got into position on my mat and Zafu. My joints ached from the tension of the trip. I pulled the string, took a breath, and went immediately into my mantra, Still the Mind. The events of the day played out in slightly exaggerated fashion as they flashed through my mind. Then a light began to shine from somewhere. It was filled with warmth and held the presence of countless beings, all connected by one ultimate entity. Millions of voices whispered affirmations into my third eye as I transported to the infinite now. Much better now. It was morning time again. It was time to wind up and wind things down. As I once again descended my stairway to greet another day, I welcomed all who wished to join me on a vicarious jaunt through a much smaller universe with much larger wonderings. The sun shone incredibly bright, and spring chirped in the trees as I stepped out of another day. Thank you.